Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making some mac and cheese. First thing I want to do is really prepare all of the ingredients. So here I have some cheese. I really like to use strong cheddar cheese. I just find it really adds to the flavor. It gives it that really ooey gooey cheesy flavor. So I'm going to grate up probably this whole brick of cheese, and after that I will probably take out some Parmesan cheese to grate up as well. As you can imagine, mac and cheese uses a lot of cheese. I don't normally have dishes that have quite this much cheese in it, but I mean, that's the name of the game here. I know mac and cheese can be somewhat of a comforting dish for many people. I actually never grew up having mac and cheese. I mean, I had Kraft dinner here and there as a kid, but it was never something that my family made from scratch. It is such a quick and easy recipe though, so I'm glad I can make it for my family, and sometimes I'll even add some sausage or other protein to make it a full meal. Okay, so while I was grating the cheese, I got started with boiling the water for the pasta. I'm also going to get started with the roux. So for the cheesy sauce, I need to make a roux. I'm going to push this aside as I wait for these pans to get hot, or pots to get hot, I should say. I'm going to continue grating some Parmesan cheese now. One more piece. Now go. So I actually realized I still have some bacon in the fridge, and I think that will be a great addition to make this mac and cheese even saltier. So I'm actually going to fry that up first before I start the roux. I'll just use scissors to cut it into little bits. While the bacon cooks, I will grate the Parmesan cheese. You could use pre-shredded cheese here if you wanted to make your life a little easier. I always grate a bit extra because I know the kids will grab a couple handfuls. Okay, it's not a lot of bacon over here, but it's still something. The water's boiling over here. Just gonna add some coarse salt. And some of this pasta. This is what I'm using today. It's nothing special, honestly. I'm going to hope I have enough water in there. I'm going to leave the bacon grease in there. Okay, so for the roux, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of butter. I'm going to hope this isn't too hot. Sometimes if the pan seems too hot, just move it off the butter, especially if something starts to smoke. Okay, that should be okay. Now I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of flour, a bit under. Maybe it's more like 1/3 of a cup of flour. I have a really hard time sometimes following recipes, so I like to just, make them up as I go along. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. Okay, this is looking good. I'm actually going to try and take that off. So I know people normally use only milk for this, but I like to use cream as well. I think it makes it just extra delicious. So I'd say I put about 1/2 cup of cream there. Again, I don't love to measure everything. That'll help cool it down. Now let me add the milk. This is 1/2 cup here. 3 cups sounds good. I'm gonna stir that around a bit. I actually went back and added another cup of milk there. I just didn't think it would be enough sauce for all of the noodles that I was making. I'm also going to add some freshly grated nutmeg. For the longest time, I only used ground nutmeg, and then I kept seeing other, cooking YouTubers use freshly grated nutmeg and speaking so highly of it. So I went out of my way to get some, and honestly, I can vouch for that. I thought it would be harder to find than it was. Once I went looking for it, I realized it could be found at almost any grocery store as long as you took your time to look through the spice section. So I'm adding all my cheeses here. I added almost a full block of cream cheese. I'm going to add most of the parmesan and most of the cheddar that I had grated. I mean, technically you don't have to grate these cheeses. It'll just take longer for them to melt. And since I really wanted to get this dish done quickly, I thought if I grated them, I could actually have the sauce come together in the same amount of time as it would take the pasta to cook. So I was really making use of all of the time, and I knew it would be a quick, easy dish to complete. The only steps really left are to have the cheese melt and then to drain the pasta once it is done cooking. Once the cheese is fully melted and silky and smooth, and again, make sure you don't overcook this and curdle the milk. I have done that before and it completely ruins the dish. Once I was actually able to bring it back and revitalize it by putting it in my Vitamix, I was able to blend it. I blended it for quite a while until it was smooth again, but I'd still say that it wasn't quite as good as the original recipe. I'm just checking the consistency of the sauce here, and it thickened up nicely and is ready to use. Cheesy sauce is ready. Now let's assemble the dish. So here I'm actually trying to use as few dishes as possible so that I don't have to clean a bunch after I finish. In doing so, I make it a little harder for myself to mix everything together, but nevertheless I figure it out. If I would have thought about this better, I probably would have put it in a larger bowl and then distributed each to a separate dish, but I was able to mix the sauce in with all the pasta noodles. The dish that you see on my left there is the other dish that I'll use, and I'll eventually make a freezer meal out of it. So I put some of the pasta that I had already cooked and drained into that dish. Honestly, the assembling part of the cooking process I find to be the most satisfying. It's when you see all your efforts come together and you get to try that final product. I'm mixing it here and it seems super cheesy. I think that I did a good job with the ratios of pasta noodles to cheesy sauce. I'm going to add the bacon to the portion that we're eating today. Now, what you see here is the dishes after sitting for a little while. I had to do a couple other things before I got back to these dishes and was able to fully finish them off. So the cheese is kind of set and it's not quite as ooey and gooey as you previously saw, but I will rewarm it before we eat it. Also, a good recommendation I have is for your freezer dishes, when you do go and rewarm them, oftentimes what will happen is they'll seem a bit more dry than the original recipe because the noodles will absorb a lot of the moisture. So what I do is I warm it so that it's almost fully warmed, and then I tend to make little wells inside the dish, and I add little dollops of cream or milk, depending on what I have, and it adds that extra moisture that it needs. I put it back in the oven for a little while, and it is absolutely creamy and delicious and smooth and silky again. I will top these dishes with the remainder of the cheese. And then earlier I had made some breadcrumbs. I took the rest of a loaf of bread and put it in the oven. I cut it into small cubes and put it in the oven so that it would fully dehydrate. And now I'm just kind of smashing it with a rolling pin and adding some spices to it, oregano and salt. And I think that's parsley from my garden. And I will add it to the tops of these dishes. It just adds a nice crunchy element on top and another texture. It's always good to have various textures in your meals. Sometimes when I make these dishes, I like to make different sized portions because for some meals I'll like to have it as just a side, and other times I like to have it as a full meal. So I put it in different size containers. If I don't have a lid for the container, I will wrap it though in 2 sheets of foil because it'll keep it from getting freezer burnt as long as you eat it within the next 3 months. The dish is done. I'll pop a lid on it and put it in the oven. I add some dollops of butter on top to make the breadcrumbs extra crispy. And when it comes out, it is delicious. So this is how I served it for dinner. We had steak, sausage, and some jalapeno poppers, and then some mac and cheese on the side. It was creamy from the cheese, crunchy from the breadcrumbs, and delicious.